Is he right? Am I taking advantage of him? The thought gnaws at me, its edges sharp and unrelenting. But I shove it down, bury it somewhere deep and unreachable. This isn't about me. It's about him, his ridiculous expectations, his impossible standards. I just don't see why this is such a big deal to you, I finally say, my voice softer now, almost fleeting. It's not like I'm not contributing at all. Hey, Jeremy here. It all started simple, like most relationships do. I wanted to make an effort, show her I cared. Treating her on dates wasn't a chore, it felt natural. Picking up the tab after dinner, covering movie tickets, surprising her with flowers. That's what you do when you like someone. It's part of the excitement of building something new. At first, I didn't mind. What's a few dollars here and there when you're trying to make someone smile? I figured she'd step in now and then, but it wasn't something I dwelled on. In the beginning, I didn't see it as a problem. Beth was different. She had this effortless charm, this laugh that could fill a room and make heads turn. And the way her eyes lit up every time I paid, like I was doing something meaningful, it made me feel good. Like I was the man I wanted to be. I didn't even question it. But then the months rolled by, and I started noticing things. Patterns. Every date, every outing, every little thing, it was always my card on the table. Coffee? My treat. Dinner? My bill. Even the small stuff adds up after a while. I kept telling myself, maybe she'll grab the next one. Except, she didn't. Not once. I remember the night it really started to bother me. We were at this nice Italian place, the kind with candlelit tables, even on a random Tuesday. When the waiter brought the check, I hesitated, just for a moment. Curious. Would she reach for her purse? Would she at least pretend? Nothing. She didn't even glance at the bill. I paid, of course, but the thought lingered. Shouldn't she at least offer? A few weeks later, I decided to bring it up. Not in an aggressive way, just a casual chat over drinks. I mentioned the idea of splitting bills. She laughed it off at first, but eventually she said, "Yeah, that's fair. We should do that. I'd feel better about it too." It sounded like a win. Equality, right? And for a while, it felt like progress. When we went out, she'd mumble something about how she'd get the next one, and I wanted to believe her. But the next one never came. Not really. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe she's just forgetful, I told myself. People get distracted. But how many times can someone conveniently forget? The realization hit me slowly, like an itch I couldn't scratch. She wasn't forgetting. She just didn't want to pay. One night, I tested the waters. Let the silence stretch when the bill landed between us. Beth fidgeted, glanced at her phone, then finally said, "You've got this, right? You're so good at handling this stuff." The words stung, but I smiled, paid, and tucked it away in the growing pile of annoyances I didn't know how to handle. What was I supposed to say? No, you pay for once? It felt petty to even think it, but it kept happening. Take the vacation, for instance. We'd been talking about getting away somewhere sunny and warm. The kind of trip you plan together, right? Wrong. I brought up flights first, asked if she'd found any deals. Her response was quick, dismissive. "I've been slammed at work. You're better at planning this kind of stuff anyway." Okay, fine. I started looking into it. Hotels, flights, everything. But when I asked about splitting the costs, She blinked like I'd spoken another language. "You're serious?" she said, her tone laced with disbelief. "Yeah," I reminded her. "We agreed to split things." Her response, a soft laugh, the kind that makes you feel stupid for even asking. "You don't think this is a little transactional?" she said. That word, transactional. It hung in the air between us, heavy and accusing. I didn't even know how to respond. She made it sound like I was putting a price tag on our relationship, like I cared more about money than I did about her. But wasn't that what this was about? I wasn't asking her to pay for everything. I wasn't even asking her to pay half. I just wanted her to try, to show that she cared in the same way I did. The vacation never happened. I can see the frustration in his eyes, the way his jaw tightens every time he looks at me now. It's like he's waiting for me to slip up, to prove some unspoken point. But it's not that simple. "Why does everything have to be about money with you?" I snap one night, the words tumbling out before I can stop them. His eyes widen, then narrow. "It's not about the money," he says, his voice low and even. "It's about effort." Effort. The word cuts deeper than I want to admit, because maybe he's right. Maybe I haven't been trying as hard as I should, but it's not like I don't care. "I do appreciate you," I tell him, my voice softer now. I've never been in a relationship like this before, where everything feels so balanced. It's the truth, but it feels like an excuse. That conversation stays with me. Her words, her tone, it's like she doesn't see it. Doesn't see how much I've been giving, how little I've been getting back. I keep telling myself things will change, that she'll surprise me one day, pull out her card without me having to ask, plan a date without me prompting her. But deep down, I know better. A relationship isn't supposed to feel like this. It's not supposed to feel like a transaction, but it's also not supposed to feel like you're the only one trying. And now every time I look at her, I wonder, is this really worth it? I want to believe it is. That she'll step up, that we'll find a way to make this work. But how long am I supposed to wait? I watch him walk away, his shoulders slumped, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. And for the first time, I wonder if I've gone too far, if I've taken too much, and if it's already too late to give anything back. "Jeremy, I've been so busy. I haven't had time to think about money. Can't we figure it out later?" Later. Always later. Beth's default response, her go-to shield against any responsibility. She didn't have time to plan, to budget, or even to acknowledge how things kept piling up. But she had all the time in the world for Instagram, posting selfies of her perfectly arranged brunch plates and texting me, "Have you booked the flights yet?" By then, my anger had cooled into something far worse, exhaustion. I wasn't just tired of hearing the same excuses. I was tired of pretending that it was okay. I was tired of bending over backward to maintain a balance that only seemed to benefit her. It wasn't always this way. When we started dating, I brushed off the small signs. Beth's carefree attitude was charming at first, a refreshing contrast to my methodical approach. She was spontaneous, unbothered by the nitty-gritty details of life. It felt like she balanced me out, and I liked being the organized one. But over time, her lack of accountability started to feel less like a personality quirk and more like a glaring red flag. Beth loved the perks of being in a relationship, the dates, the surprises, the little gestures. But when it came to the effort behind those moments, she balked. She loved being treated, but never seemed to consider treating me. It wasn't just about money, though that became the focal point of our arguments. It was about respect. Every time I tried to have an honest conversation, she'd wave it away with a smile or a dismissive laugh. "Jeremy, I'm just not good with this stuff. You're so much better at handling it," she'd say, as if that were a compliment. But her words carried a hidden weight. With every "you're better at this," she was subtly shifting the responsibility onto me. I was better at planning, organizing, budgeting, and apparently being the grown-up in our relationship. At first, I told myself it didn't matter. Relationships weren't about keeping score, right? But the truth was, her lack of effort spoke volumes. The night it all came to a head started like many others. We'd gone out to dinner, and when the check came, she barely glanced at it before returning to her phone. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. "Beth," I said finally, my voice steady but firm. "This has been bothering me for a while. Can we talk about it?" She sighed, already defensive. "Jeremy, you're taking this too seriously. It's just money. Why do you always make it such a big deal?" "It's not just about money," I replied, trying to keep my frustration in check. "It's about effort. It's about respect. Do you even realize how much you rely on me to handle everything?" Her laugh was light, almost dismissive. "Oh, come on. You know you're better at this stuff than I am. What's the big deal?" The big deal, I wanted to say, was that I felt more like a provider than a partner. The big deal was that her words, her actions, or lack thereof, were slowly eroding the foundation of our relationship. That night, I made a decision. The next time the check came, I wouldn't reach for it. I wouldn't say a word. I'd just wait and see what she would do. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. We were at a casual cafe a few days later when the bill arrived. I let it sit there, untouched, as Beth scrolled through her phone. Minutes passed before she finally noticed. Are you okay?" she asked, her brow furrowing in confusion. "Yeah," I said, my tone neutral. "Just waiting to see if you'll grab this one." Her eyes widened, a flicker of irritation crossing her face. "Jeremy, are you serious?" "Dead serious," I replied, meeting her gaze. She sighed, clearly annoyed, and pulled out her card. The tension was thick, and the air between us felt heavy with unspoken words. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a strange sense of relief. It wasn't about the money. It was about finally standing up for myself. Things didn't improve after that night. If anything, they got worse. Our conversations turned into arguments, each one leaving us more disconnected than before. Beth accused me of being cheap and insecure. I told her it wasn't about the money. It was about the effort, the willingness to meet me halfway. But she didn't see it that way. In her mind, I was the one overreacting, making mountains out of molehills. She didn't understand that it wasn't about splitting bills or taking turns paying. It was about what those actions represented: partnership, respect, and mutual effort. In the end, we broke up. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one. I realized that I deserved more than what Beth was willing to give. I deserved a partner who saw our relationship as a team effort, not a one-way street. Looking back, I don't regret the time I spent with Beth. Our relationship taught me a lot about myself, about my boundaries, and about what I value in a partner. I learned that relationships aren't about keeping score, but about showing up for each other in meaningful ways. It's not about who pays for dinner or who plans the vacations. It's about the principle behind those actions. It's about knowing that your partner values your time, your effort, and your contribution. Beth once told me that I was better at handling things. Maybe she was right. But being better shouldn't mean being taken for granted. A relationship should be built on mutual respect and shared effort, not on one person shouldering all the responsibility. Now, I approach relationships differently. Am more vocal about my expectations and quicker to recognize when the balance starts to tilt. I've learned to prioritize my own worth and to seek out partners who see and value it too. Beth and I may not have worked out, but am grateful for the lessons our time together taught me. Sometimes, standing up for yourself means letting go of someone who isn't willing to grow with you. And while it's never easy, it's always worth it. In the end, relationships are about more than love. They're about respect, effort, and partnership. And those are things I'll never settle for less than again.